All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the NISD here in San Antonio. That's what I was supposed to be saying. If we were all outside in what you see behind me here, the pool that you'll be playing in tomorrow. We're really excited to be in San Antonio with all of you. This is a unique opportunity for us to be doing this on Zoom. I think in some ways a little better while you guys are here in your comfort of your hotel rooms or together as a team or wherever some of you all are at. It's appreciated that you're here. My name is Coach Abdou, John Abdou. I'm the Chief High Performance Officer at USA Water Polo. Usually when we kick off these events, we try to have some programming for all the athletes and things that we could do to spend some time together that we can enrich ourselves outside of just being in the pool. So tonight we'll be talking about college recruiting, the college recruitment process, and where we're at. And I'm joined with my good friend and the president of the Association of Collegiate Water Polo Coaches, Coach Felix Mercado, and he'll be joining us tonight in this call. So thank you, Coach, for being with us. He is also the head men's women's coach at Brown University, and a longtime national team coach for us, coach of the World University Games a couple years ago, and will be helping evaluate athletes this weekend. But tonight, in this Zoom, in this session, he's coming in his role as the president of the Coach Association. It's something we work on together. I'm the executive director of the ACWPC. We'll refer to that as well, along with some other roles. And so one of the things that he and I have both bonded over the years is our love for college water polo and our enthusiasm to grow the sport at the collegiate level. And a lot of that relies on all of you who are athletes, parents, coaches, engaging into the college recruiting process and wanting to play in college. And so there's no disclaimer here. We are here to help you guide in the process, but also ensure that you're motivated and you're ready to go play in college at the next level, right? So obviously we're here for the Olympic Development Program this weekend, and I'm really grateful that we get to play after all this time, and then we're coming out of this pandemic safely and together, and we get a chance to be together this weekend to play. So please, let's take advantage of that. Play with some enthusiasm. Play with as much effort as you can, so that we can put ourselves in a position to get the most out of our time this weekend, and also really do it all safely, so that we can show the rest of the country that we can continue to run safe events like this, water polo wise, right, as we keep going. I think that's really important. So I'm really happy to be here for ODP this weekend. We're really excited to see you all play. We're really excited to get these games going, and I want you all to take advantage of it. And if we want one of the end results of this, as you walk away from the weekend, to feel like you also have some tools, not only to become a better player, but also how to navigate this process, of college recruiting. And I know that process brings some anxiety with it, and I know that it brings some stress with it. But one of the things that when Coach and I do these talks together, and when we do this all over the country, is our goal is to keep the anxiety down. We want to answer your questions so in advance, so that you can feel better about this and navigate this confidently. Not everything rides on one game. It's not going to be one game this weekend that you play, or one play this weekend that makes or breaks your recruiting process. One goal you score or get scored on, that doesn't matter. The recruiting process is long, and it's very thorough, and there are so many things that go with it. And that's part of what should ease your anxiety. Is there's not one thing that'll happen. There's a lot of many things that will be combined in this. And again, we're excited to see you all here. Just some technicalities as I share my screen and we start getting into the talk. The chat is disabled, so we're not having you chat through this, but if you have questions, I see someone is already raising their hand, things like that. If you have questions, use the Q&A function in your webinar, right? So if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, there'll be something that says Q&A. You can put questions in there, and as questions come in, we'll be able to answer them. There's a good chance that Coach and I will answer most of your questions through the talk. All right, but as they come, if you didn't hit something, you want to make sure we hit something, please feel free to use that function again in the chat, in the Q&A function there. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to get started. Coach, you got a couple words before I get started here?
Yeah. No, I want to say thank you for the introduction, and I'm super excited to get back on the pool deck and watch you guys play. And and help in any way I can. That's about it. And hopefully this is a productive talk. So please feel free. This is the more questions you guys ask, the better this talk will be. So.
Yeah. And we'll try to do this as fast as we can. I talk fast. Those of you all have seen me talk before, heard me talk before. I try to talk fast. I try to get a lot of information in, because basically what we're trying to do is get a week's worth of information, or let's call it like a 2-day seminar or something on college recruiting into, less than an hour. Would love to have all of you resting. You're getting in the horizontal body position somewhere, on a couch or in your bed, getting your legs ready for tomorrow, so that you are well rested and ready to play some games this weekend, right? So we will go through this. One unique fact, as I put up the first slide here, right, what we need about college recruiting is that there's a lot of different information and talks that are out there specifically about college recruiting. This one is about water polo, right? So there are a lot of information that you're gonna get from your college counselors, that you can get from your guidance counselors at school, that you'll get from other places that talk about a lot of sports. Why we give this talk is it's very specific to water polo, right? Because water polo has its own unique ways of going about this. Another fun fact is that we started this talk around 2005, 2006, Coach Felix and I, right? Because when I was coaching at Bucknell University in central Pennsylvania, and Coach Mercado was out at MIT on the East Coast, and moving on to Brown, and we just started getting to know each other. And what we both collectively realized was that a lot of the information that was out there wasn't water polo specific. So we started putting this stuff into some handouts and some PowerPoints, and we started giving. So we've both been kind of collaborating on this thing for since, let's say, 2006. So 15 years, right? At least we've been collaborating on this, and that's why I haven't changed the 1997 Microsoft Word clip art that's on here as the front page of this. I keep it as a nostalgia, right, for us to remember that this is something we've been doing for a long time and that we want to do this. We are also in Texas. I just want to make a shout out that we are in Texas, and Texas is the greatest country on earth. If you ask anybody in Texas, we're grateful to be here right now. Texas is near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. But when I was born in Egypt, I was born in Upper Egypt, and the first place my family migrated to was actually Houston, Texas. So we immigrated to the United States via Houston, and Texas itself not only is important to my family, but it's really important for our strategic growth in water polo. And what we're doing here in Texas, what you're seeing here at the San Antonio at the NISD that you see behind me on the screen, that you got to maybe practice in today and just to play in this weekend, it's all part of a strategic plan for us to continue to grow the sport here. And I want to give a massive shout out to everybody here in Texas, to Coach Joe Linehan for leading the way. Everybody, all the boots on the ground that have been helping. A shout out to Austin College and Coach Mark Lawrence as we get into talking about colleges, the only varsity program here in the state of Texas. And a shout out to the fact that in the fall of 2022, so 1 year from now, will be the first official high school water polo season in the state. And so when you have this much water polo starting to grow here, it's what's good for the whole country, right? So what's good for all of us here is that when Texas starts to grow, then everyone around it is all going to benefit from this. And so I really just want to give a shout out to everybody for having us here. The San Antonio Sports Commission, that's also helping sponsor the tournament this weekend, that sponsors major events like the NCAA women's basketball tournament just a few weeks ago. All of this is a part of our strategic plan, and we're happy to be in Texas, and we'll continue to reference that through the course of the weekend. All right. So when we talk about perspective here, this is really just that I want to underline and underscore some things in this process as we move forward. Is one, I want you to know that in this process, you have to educate yourself, right? That when you talk to other people about college water polo, you talk to other people about college athletics, this is a strange country in a lot of ways. But one of the strange things about this country is that we are the only country in the world that has this collegiate system of athletics. And it's one of the only places that has it. And it's so ingrained into our personalities, right? So like if we walked into a University of Texas game versus Texas A&M, there's some people who are going to be really angry at each other, right? Those of you guys who are from Michigan, if I wore an Ohio State shirt when I walked down the Michigan campus, someone would probably get in a fight with me, right? If you're in Southern California, I was first introduced to this growing up around UCLA and USC, where one of my teachers on campus wore a T-shirt that said, "Mine Butler went to USC," right? Like people just talking smack about each other's colleges all the time. There's so much emotion involved in this. So when you listen to somebody talk about college water polo, they may be coming from a place of just emotion, not fact. So this is about you. what is the best school for you? What's the best fit for you? How are you empowered in this process? And that's why you have to keep an open mind. So we talk about educating yourself, keeping an open mind, and knowing that there's many options out there, not just the few colleges that I mentioned, not just the colleges that your coach went to, the coaches went to, not just the colleges your parents went to, right? Not just colleges your teammates went to. There are many, many universities out there that offer varsity water polo, and we want you to have an open mind about this. And we want you to be proactive. So we have a lot of people on the call tonight, right? We're reaching upwards of 150 or more, right? People who are watching this. A lot of people are going to watch the recording. There's 550 athletes competing this weekend in ODP here, boys and girls in San Antonio this weekend. There's a lot of you here. We want everybody to know that each one of you, there's a school that is excited to have you play water polo for them. And it's not just a school. It might not just be a school you've heard of. So we want you to keep an open mind about all these options, and we'll get to being proactive about it too. Yeah. Please, Coach.
And John, and just as there's a school for you, but there's also different levels of water polo that might fit your what you're looking for to play at the next level. So just keep an open mind about the levels of opportunities out there, whether they're academic related or athletics related.
Yeah, and we want you to be proactive, because in this experience for water polo players, it's a little different. You might have a friend who's on the basketball team, you might have a friend who's on the soccer team, football, whatever, that they're being recruited actively by the coaches, and they're all into this. In water polo, the onus is on us as athletes to recruit ourselves, right? That means we need to push ourselves out there. So if you're waiting for the phone call right now at home, and you're waiting for that email for the coach to say, I have a spot for you, I'm coming to get you, right? We have it. That may not happen, no matter if you're ODP or different levels of play. It's our job to recruit ourselves in water polo. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to go over that in here. But the more proactive you are, the less stress there is in the situation. The number one stressor I hear from parents and athletes across the board is like, this coach didn't contact me. I'm waiting for the coach and they're not calling me back. That's not how it works, right? Your job is to be proactive here, right? And starts tonight, right, with learning some of the stuff. And again, keep an open mind as we go forward. So in this, I want you to control the controllables. We talk about the ACWPC. That's the Association of Collegiate Water Polo Coaches. That's where we're at. If you want to get into go to our website that Coach Mercado has started. It's ncaawaterpolocoaches.org. It has every program listed on there, and you can see direct links to all the coaches who are out there. It's ncaawaterpolocoaches.org. And as Coach Association leadership, we're here. When we give this talk, we're representing all coaches in the country, as we say this, right, on behalf of those coaches. So we're not speaking, it's not John Abdou's personal opinion or Coach Mercado's personal opinion, right? This is aggregated information that's representative of all college coaches in the country. So, Coach, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing that it's never really too late as far as when you're looking to apply. If you're a senior, right, getting ready to graduate, just graduated, and then you're having second thoughts of whether you're going to play or not, there are still opportunities for you to enroll in some schools. You just have to be kind of, again, do your homework, do your research. But there are schools that have rolling admissions, and that's the word you want to look, where they literally don't have a deadline, and they can admit students up until the like maybe a week before classes start. If you're a rising senior, take advantage of, like, again, you're here because you were able to qualify, make your ODP team. But this is an opportunity to showcase. While right now we're in an NCAA dead period where Division I, Division II coaches aren't allowed to be on deck to watch you, which is something typically that they'd be able to do this time of the year. Thanks to the great resources that USA Water Polo and Joe Lindenham, who I'm sure had a lot to do with getting the ability to stream. We're streaming all the games. So college coaches, they were sent out all the links, so they're going to be able to watch. So the fact that you're here, just because a coach that you might want that you're looking at to go to their school isn't here physically here, trust me, there's a good chance they're watching you play. But this is going to be a busy summer. You're going to be playing a lot of water polo, with whether you're going to JOs or various tournaments in your area. This is an opportunity where you let the coaches know, like, hey, you're going to be playing, where you're going to be playing, film those games, and have something ready to give to coaches if they ask for it. And if you're a rising junior and under, we'll talk about the June 15th is the big day. June 15th is the first day. June 15th, when your sophomore year ends, where college coaches at Division I, Division II level can communicate with you, can reply to an email, can engage in conversation, can call you. So all these things we're going to go over. But the one thing that, going back to Coach Abdou's first slide, is you got to educate yourself on rules. You got to educate yourself on schools and know what type of deadlines and you need to happen and how to put yourself out there to be seen.
Yeah. And one other to-do list to add while you're taking notes there with your parents, wherever you guys are watching, is register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. It's a quick, easy step, but you got to do it in the process. If you go online, you Google NCAA Eligibility Center, your college counselors at school take care of it. Basically, in 10 seconds or less, what the Eligibility Center is that it's the basic academic requirements needed to play college athletics, period. Most everybody in water polo qualifies for these things. We've had a lot of people, a lot of athletes go through this, but you need to take care of that also to be able to go on recruiting trips later on. So it's a necessary step in this.
Yeah, and John, this is more for Division I, Division II. If you're a Division III, if you're considering a Division III, you don't have to be registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center. But because this is mostly something that you do, you finalize after you're done in high school, register for right now. So just in case you don't limit yourself, because eventually you're going to have to register if you plan on playing D1 or D2.
Yeah, most definitely. So seeing as how we're in San Antonio, I thought we could quote Coach Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs while we're here. I think we also we're going to talk a lot about, we have been talking a lot about the process and making sure you're educating yourself and doing your homework and looking up programs and registering for the Eligibility Center and knowing your timeline in the process, but to understand too what it takes to be recruited. All right, when Coach Popovich is talking about, he's here talking about athlete evaluations. These are the questions he's asking. And I also use this, and I have shown this slide to our ODP coaches when let me put my USA Water Polo hat back on, when I'm giving ODP talks to our coaches, and I'm guiding our coaches through this with Coach Brian Linton and all of us, we've used this slide as we talk about too. While you're being evaluated this weekend for ODP, same way you'll be evaluated by college coaches. How hard are they competing? Are they coachable? Do they want to grow? They have a desire to grow? Are they trying to get better? Do they get along with their teammates? Do they respect their teammates? How are they talking to their coaches? How are they interacting with their coaches? What does warm-up look like? Are they taking warm-up seriously when they're on the deck? Are they just fooling around? Or are they trying to get to business, right? Are they focused in what they're doing, right? How do they act when something bad happens to them, right? How are they dealing with adversity? We can notice that. So more important than you just trying to score a goal or do something in the game, we're watching what you're doing away from the ball. We're watching what you're doing on the deck. We're watching what happens when you have to deal with adversity, right? Are you cheering for your teammates? Are you enjoying? Are you lifting the other people up around you? Are you a good teammate, right? Do you have a sense of humor? Can you let things roll off of you? All those things become important in how we evaluate for the national teams, and the college coaches are going to be the same evaluating you in this process. We want to know what kind of teammate are you? How coachable are you? And it's really important to hear this from Coach Popovich and how he evaluates players even at the highest levels of the NBA. And he's also our head coach this summer for Team USA basketball as we head to the Tokyo Olympics this summer. So just keep in mind that character counts, right? Integrity matters, right? And we're watching all of these things as you're going through this process. And so when we talk about the options that you have out there, there are a lot of programs that continue to add. I mentioned, and I'll specifically give another shout out to Austin College. Austin College is not in Austin, Texas. It's in the northern Dallas area, northern Texas area that you'll see. Austin College now just came off a great women's season, a Division III program that's here, fairly new program in the last 3 years. And where we put some of these new programs up here on the slide is so that you can see that it's not just about the colleges you've heard of. You may not have heard of the college that you can go to, going to Augustana College or going to Ottawa, right, in Arizona, or getting out to Wagner College if you're a male, right, that started a men's program fairly recently in the last 5 years. It had a women's program for a long time, or brand new program like Mount St. Mary's in the Maryland area, right? There are a lot of options, and that's going to continue to grow. And Coach Felix and I are more passionate about this than anything. We're banging on doors, trying to get more programs to add. But the only way we can get these programs to add is for them to understand that athletes are going to go play there. So as you saw that last slide, what's in juxtaposition to that slide is that of all the people playing high school water polo in America, of all the athletes playing high school water polo in America, I put the black arrow there, right? Only 4.7% of men and 5.8% of women go on to play in college. This slide is usually used, and this data from the NCAA is usually used to discourage, right, people in basketball or other sports to say, hey, it's hard to make it to the next level. I use this to say that we have programs like the ones I showed on the slide before and programs that are continuing to add that are actively looking and want you to go play there. There are rosters that aren't being filled, particularly on the women's side, right? There are teams that need athletes to go join them, and we need to have athletes raise their hand and go play. We need coaches to go coach those teams. And if we want the sport to continue to grow at the college level, we need everyone to participate. And we see the value in playing varsity water polo, right, at the highest levels, right, in college. And that's why we're encouraging you to do this. You know? So know that those programs are out there, know that you have options, and know that we're doing this. Now, let's talk about the landscape of what that's like, right? Of all those programs and where we're at, there's going to be Division I, Division II, and Division III. Now, that only matters Division I, II, and III in your head, right? So we're going to dispel that myth right now, right? When you have, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong here, we're at about approximately 49 or 50 men's varsity programs in the country. That's Divisions I, II, and III combined. Right? Divisions I, II, and III combined, about that number. On the women's side, what are we at on the women's side now, Coach?
I want to say 68.
Yeah.
Close to, and we'll have 51 teams next year on the men.
On the men's side.
I want to say 68 on the women.
Yep. And that's now when we say 51, 68, these approximate numbers, we're talking about Divisions I, II, and III combined. Every varsity program in the country all into one number. If we were talking about basketball, soccer, or some other sports, we'd be talking about hundreds of universities offering their sport at each division, right? Like there's 500 Division I men's basketball programs, 400 Division II, another 600 Division III. Because we are such a smaller sport with about 50 and about 65 on the women's side and all divisions combined there, playing Division I versus playing Division III versus playing Division II is less relevant. Division III programs defeat Division I programs consistently. Every year there's stories that come out about this, right? The competitive level of play is not what's out there. So what I hear is athletes all the time coming to me and to us and my coaches beating their chest saying, I got to be a D1 athlete. I'm going to be a D1 athlete. That is less relevant in water polo. There is a lot of advantage of playing D2, D3, and these other levels that's out there. And what you're making your decision on is not the pride of being able to say that I'm a specific division level of athlete. What you're evaluating your college decision on is what type of lifestyle you want to lead at that university, what you want to do at that university, how you're going to spend your time, how you're going to spend your summers, how you're going to spend your off seasons, how you want to plan your academic path forward, right? And that's what I want everyone to realize. There are Division I schools that operate a little more like Division III schools. I coached at Bucknell University for 6 years. We were Division I. The reality is a lot of our competition was recruiting against Division III schools and then Division II schools because our summers were off, right? We had our off seasons. We were not allowed to work out as much. And then I spent 4 years as the associate head coach at UC Santa Barbara for the men's program there, where the summers were packed, right? And off seasons were packed. And we played water polo year round. We had about 6 weeks off scattered during the course of the year, right? I'm talking about a calendar year, Jan 1 to December 1st or December 31st, you would find about 6 weeks off. Otherwise, we're playing water polo all the time. So the amount of time you commit to water polo at D1 school may be just as much as you're committing to your academics. Now, as a D3 or different levels, as you look at your schools, the academics would be more than the water polo. And that's how you want to spend your time. So it plays itself out in things like studying abroad, right? Having internships and different things like that. So understand the different levels of play, Coach.
Yeah, and then the last thing on just everything you're saying is absolutely on point. The last thing is, let's say you don't want to train 5 days a week or 6 days a week, and you want to have more of a balance towards the social academic piece of college than athletic. There are club water polo programs that play for a national championship, and in that case, I wrote here that there's over 200 schools. That might be closer to 300. The amount of colleges that sponsor water polo at the club level.
Yeah, and as you guys are looking at club water polo, there's also knowing here in California there are junior colleges that offer water polo. Right, there's another entry point. There's a lot of athletes come from outside of California or outside of USA, come to a junior college for 2 years. It's the only place that offers junior college water polo is in the state of California. It's another way to prep yourself up if you're looking for an entry point. That's different than jumping into a 4-year university right away. And so understand that's all there. We've listed some websites. If you go to usawaterpolo.org, you can go to our sport development programs and go to College Corner, and there's going to be a lot of information there. And I may even show that screen at the end. Again, I talked about NCAAwaterpolocoach.org. I have all the list of all the programs that are out there. So part of your homework tonight, and as you take away, is to start researching those programs, pulling in and starting to take those looks and seeing where they're at. Okay, and we'll get back to financial aid in a little bit, but I want to press on here as we look at it.
John, 1 second, just because I want to answer these questions that they come in.
Sure.
So what the question is, what are some colleges that have off seasons and a balance between academics and athletics? So
Sure.
I think in general, the majority of the Division I schools in the state of California probably have less off seasons than anywhere else in the country. I think most Division I schools outside of California, like Coach Abdou mentioned earlier, like a Bucknell, probably tend to be more where their summers are off and their off seasons are limited, because a lot of those coaches also coach men and women. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, and really what you're talking about, I guess I wasn't explicit enough in that too. When we talk about Division I schools, generally Division I schools are going to try to go year round, right? With the exception of some of the outside of California ones. And Division III schools, that's where the balance exists, right? That's where the balance exists in a lot of this in terms of what you're looking at. Division II could go either way, depending on what you're looking at.
It comes down to location. And so another question just on this topic, the difference between a junior college and a regular club division college. So a junior college is only a 2-year school. And the only two junior college 2-year schools that offer water polo in the state of California. A lot of people use that route to gain a residency in the state of California, so they can go to a UC school or Cal State school. As far as a club, probably like I'll use University of Florida because I'm originally from Florida, University of Florida, who recently won a National Collegiate Club Championship on the women's side. That's you have four-year universities that might, like a Michigan. Michigan has a varsity team, but they also have a club team. Michigan State, all the Texas, all these teams have club water polo that they sponsor at the club level, but they're at major Division I institutions. Hopefully that answered that question. Yeah,
no, it's good. And it's a good question as we talk about this. Again, we're trying to fit a week or 2 days of information in an hour. It's difficult to do. So we're going to talk faster. So we mentioned these websites. I mentioned usawaterpolo.org. Go to the development, sport development, go to College Corner. You'll see those. There's a Shooting for College archive of articles there. So let's say you have a question specifically about what's junior college water polo like. There's an article there on there. You can click on it, learn a little bit more about it. There will be, hey, I want to learn a little bit more. You guys only were able to touch upon what an unofficial visit is versus an official visit. We'll go there. There's an article and it talks specifically about visits, in water polo, and can give you back to that. And also Coach Mercado referenced all the collegiate clubs. That's all part of the CWPA, Collegiate Water Polo Association. And you can check out all those there on that website as well. So
yeah, and quickly, we'll try to, because we're rushing, we're trying to answer questions. We will provide you with like a cheat sheet, like a one-word document that will email you that has a lot of these basic bullet points, so you guys can have access to these to these links if you don't have enough time to copy usawaterpolo.org sports 2018, all these other numbers.
I got you, man. I got you. We'll send you all the links in a PDF here before you leave this weekend. That's a good point. But a lot of times you do this and people are taking notes of the recording. We're also recording this. We'll send the recording out to everybody, right? So you'll have a link to the recording. We'll send a link to the recording and a link to a PDF with some notes on it as well, right? So that you have all this at the end of the weekend, So this slide, we wanted to show you just kind of that answers your question. Someone asked about like the differences between Division I, 2, and 3, and what that's like. This is a slide from the NCAA that just kind of goes to show you what the differences are and kind of the balance in the lifestyle. One of the things that I like about this slide that it always points out to me is if you look somewhere in the middle where it says 1 in 25, 1 in 11, 1 in 6, right? What that is referring to is the number of students who are actually athletes on campus. This is a really important question to ask in your recruiting process, right? So you can see. And what you notice is that in most Division I schools, which are the larger schools, more kids on campus, right? You're 1 of 25, 1 in 25. So any random sample of 25 students on campus would have one student athlete in that campus. At the Division III level, and some of the smaller schools, or let's call them mid-major schools even, it could be as low as 1 in 6. And what that means is, as an athlete, you are around a lot of other athletes, right? That you are around and have more interaction with other athletes, student athletes that are on campus that are going through the same things as you are. So you may get a little more empathy from the professors. You have an athletic department that understands how to help you navigate the process of being a student athlete on campus, as opposed to some of the bigger schools. That's a little bit of an issue at times. It can be an issue at times. Doesn't mean it can't be navigated, right? But looking at those ratios and understanding where it's at. in our Division III schools, the other one I look at the top, the number of schools that offer this type of programming, there are more Division III schools in the country than there are Division I schools. There's more opportunity to play at the Division III level than there is at the Division I level. So that's why I really want to debunk this myth of D1, right? Like it's something that you saw on, watching a movie, Friday Night Lights or something like that, and that's where it came from, right? This is about, right, what is the best for you, right, and how you can play forward. And one thing we've done to talk about the Division III and why Division III is so important, and we've invested in this, right, is that USA Water Polo and the Collegiate Coach Association and the ACWPC, we came together, Felix, I don't know what it was, about 6 years ago now, and we've been working on this thing for the last 3-4, intently to have a Division III national championship, right? And so in that national championship that's being sponsored now, we got one in December of 2019 before COVID hit. And obviously there's plans for every year, a men's championship, a women's championship. And so the one that we got in before COVID hit was at Whittier College. What happens is the top 2 qualifying teams from the West Coast Conference and the 2 top qualifying teams from the Eastern Conference meet together for a Final Four, just like kind of like the Division I national championship. And we'll compete in a semis and a final for what would be, again, a national championship opportunity to represent. Now, we did this for a lot of reasons, right? But one of the main reasons to provide student athletes an opportunity to compete for a national championship, which means more of you should be motivated to come play at the Division III level, which means more schools around the country should be motivated to add water polo so they can have an opportunity to win a national championship, get after it. And so I want to say something before I show the video, Felix? Yeah,
I just wanted to answer a quick question, and just to kind of, again, going back to debunking the myth. In season, Division III and Division I, for the most part, practice the same amount of hours. The off season is where it's a little bit different, where the off season at Division III schools, there's lesser priority. Maybe they go 6 hours for like a 5-week span, or they might not be allowed to practice at all. While Division I school, Division II schools, they can train up anywhere between 12 to 20 hours a week in the off season, if depending on there's definitely weeks that they could do more or less. But that's pretty much, off season is the biggest difference as far as training.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and it's a really good answer, Felix, as well, because when we talk about hours per week, the NCAA only allows 20 hours per week, right? So when you, in terms of in season, like he's saying, that 20 hours is a limit, and that 20 hours includes weightlifting, film, pool time, game time. All those things are encompassed into that 20 hours a week. So if you're competing at Whittier College or you're competing at Stanford, during the season, you're probably putting in the same amount of hours, right? But it's the off season, the summers, that coach is talking about, that make the biggest difference. And that's why it goes back to the point, Coach, like we're talking about, that's why Division III schools can beat Division I schools in the season, right? Because during the game season, when the competitive season is happening, it's all the same. And the reason I want to show you this video, this is after Whittier College. The Whittier men defeated Claremont McKenna in the final of the Division III Collegiate National Championship that we sponsored last, again, December of 2019. Whoever got the #1 seed from the conferences as they rotate gets to host. And I want you to watch and potentially hear, if the audio works, right, the enthusiasm of the parents, the families, and the athletes of what this championship meant to them, right, to winning. We all see the Division I championships, and you watch all the other sports, but watch these athletes and see what comes of this as they had this chance. I don't know if you could everybody hear? No? Felix, could you hear that? Yeah. No. I'll get that to work one day. I know there's a button I got to click, but I hope you could see just the enthusiasm, getting thrown in the pool, right? Having it out there. There's a chance, there's an opportunity for growth and development at the Division III level. And I can even answer the question before. What you had was the idea of what the balance of time is. Well, another way I kind of brushed over this as well is talking about like studying abroad, right? There's always a good example I use, right? When I was at Bucknell, my athletes almost always the second semester of their junior year would study abroad, right? I mean, that was almost a standard thing, right? I'd say 50% of the athletes that wanted to chose to do that would do that. So at a Division III or a Division I that's a little more academically focused, you'll get athletes who take that opportunity to do that. When I was at a Division I school like UC Santa Barbara, and athletes come to me and say, "Hey, coach, I'm thinking about going to Barcelona, Spain for a study abroad during my junior year," I'd say, I'd be careful. We just got this, foreign athlete from Hungary that's going to come maybe take your spot, right? While you're gone, we're going to play 40 games while you're gone in the spring, right? In terms of scrimmages, and we're going to be training every day. You can go, but just know, right, that there's risk associated with it. And that was a conversation. Now my personal bias is coming that I was always uncomfortable to have, right? Because studying abroad, right, is something I think would be a great opportunity for people to do. Like the same thing can be said about internships. Same thing can be said about jobs. Same can be said about things that come into balancing in that lifestyle that are harder to fit in, right? When you're competing for at a Division I school that's going for it year round.
Yeah, and just again, just because there are some schools that might push the 20 hours a week by making some of those hours voluntary, but the NCAA limit for hours per week for athletes is 20 hours a week, and they have to get 1 day off a week for it. Now, is there a possibility that that some schools might push that limit? Of course there is, but outside of rumor here, rumor there, it's 20 hours a week, and they have to have 1 day off a week. So
yeah, I see your question, sir, and we understand, right? And then as college athletics across the board, you'll have coaches who push that limit, and that's a good question to ask coaches while you're in the recruiting process. If you're concerned about the time and how it's spent, say, look, I know the limit of 20 hours. How is it going to be? Are there going to be mandatory voluntary workouts? Right, I said that very fast. Mandatory voluntary, right? Workouts that come in. Are there other things that we are doing that we're expected to be at? And that's how it's tracked, at that level. And those are questions to ask. But that's the rule. Those are the rules across the board. So one thing to ask yourself, I asked you already for your homework. You're going to go look through the list of all the schools, right? See all the schools in the country that offer water polo, and you're going through it. Now you're going to take that long list of 50. If you're a boy on this call, right, and you're talking about 52 programs, or by next year 51. Women in the upper 60s, you're going to go through that whole list. And then I want you to cross-reference that list for these three things. And if you cross-reference the list of that long list of these three things, and you end up with 10 schools, 8 schools, 5 schools, those are the ones you are focused on to start talking about, right? And start getting into. So you're not just spamming 50 colleges hoping one of them will recruit you and you'll talk to them, right? Really narrowing it down based on these three things. And when an athlete would walk into my office and we would talk about the recruiting process, we would ask for these three things. I said, one, does this school meet your academic needs? Does it offer the area of study that you're looking for? Does it have multiple things that you might be interested in studying if you're coming in undecided and you're looking around? Is it academically a school you can be accepted to? Another huge level of stress that I deal with athletes as a counselor in this process is they say, Coach, I'm dying to get into this Ivy League school or this other school that Pomona College that has these great high academic standards, but they're not calling me back. I said, well, have you checked if your academics fit their profile, right? If you can't get into school academically, then water polo is not going to be the way that gets you in. It's not going to override, right, your academic achievements, right, or where your academic level for the school. So it's got to be the right academic. Number one, with a bullet, does the school fit your academic needs? Number two, athletically, is this a school that you are ready to compete at? We talked about the balance of Division I and III and the time in the week. Is it the school that you want to be at? I also counsel athletes when we talk about when you're looking at these schools, when you want to go to a place where you can compete and you can compete at the spot at your level of play, right? And that level of play honestly can be given to you by your coaches, your club coaches, your high school coaches, ODP coaches, national team coaches, the college coach itself. Ask them to be honest with you, because you want to go compete at a place where you may not be the best player on the team, but you don't necessarily want to go to a place where you're going to be the worst player on the team. You want to find a place where you're going to be balanced in the middle there, where you'll be challenged by those ahead of you to make you better, right? And also know that you have a spot on the team, right? Hey, look, if you want to go someplace where you're the best player on the team, there's no problem with that too. I get it, right? There's something, I'm not discouraging that. There's a room for that as well. But I like, people are counseling and they're confused. I want to find a place where, hey, I can be in the middle and I have room to grow, right? And I can get pulled up. And as the coach, want you and give you an honest evaluation of your level of play at their university. 3, is it a school that you can live at? If water polo is taken away from you, like it was for me, I got injured in college. So I had to choose a college that I was excited to play at. I was an okay player. I was excited to play, but at one point I got injured. And that injury was not met with a ton of empathy from my coach when it happened, right? And I had to learn, is this a school I want to stay at? Is this a school I want to study at? Are there other things on campus that can come? These things happen. Does the school fit your lifestyle? Is it a campus life that you want? Do you want to be in a big school? You want to be in a rural school? Where do you want to be at, right, in relation to school? If those schools on the list of 50, the list of 65, if they go 3 for 3 on the list, keep talking to them, right? If a school is 1 of 3, if a school is 2 of 3, probably not worth going down that road. And it would be the same thing when you're going through the recruiting process with a college coach. I'm not going to continue to recruit an athlete if they're not 3 for 3 with me in this process. We got to be aligned in all of these things to move forward. So this is how you evaluate programs and evaluate yourself.
Yeah, and I think just as much as you're evaluating, coming from a college coach's perspective, just as much as you're evaluating these coaches, these schools, remember the coaches are evaluating you as well. They're talking to your coaches, but and I think the reality is you got to almost be realistic with your abilities, and see where you mark up, because that's going to be an important part of the communication piece of it, but also the realistic of you not only getting in but competing at that school.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk academics. And we won't talk much about this too much here, but I just want to make a couple things clear. One, school's really important. And if you want to know where you're at academically, and if you're taking all the right classes and you're doing all the right things academically, talk to your college counselors on campus. That's why they're there, right? And make room to talk to your academic advisors, your college counselors. That's where it's at. From a water polo perspective, if a coach is talking to you about admissions to their university, and it somehow wonderfully, miraculously reaches to the point where you're offered admissions and you see an official offer letter of admissions from a university, that is your scholarship. Admissions is the new scholarship. And the reason I say that is, we'll backtrack a little bit as we talk about scholarships, that water polo scholarships in general are very, very difficult to get. So parents who are listening to this right now or watching the recording later, it's the time to grab the tissue box, right? I'm sorry to break your heart, right? This is the time to understand that admissions is the new scholarship. The way admissions processes have developed at universities across the country, it's become very competitive. Water polo itself, we said this on a slide in the very beginning. The most amount of scholarship money that a university, Division I university can offer on the men's side is 4. That's the most they're allowed to do, right?
No, 4.5.
4.5, I should say. Sorry, 4.5 is the most that they're allowed to offer. On the women's side, the most they're allowed to offer is 8. That's the most they're allowed to. Doesn't mean how much they have, right? That's how much they're allowed to have, right? 4.5 on the men's side, 8 on the women's side. And that's if you're talking about, and then you're talking about rosters of anywhere from 20 athletes to 35 athletes, right? On any given campus, depending on the school. So money is split up amongst a lot of people. It's not like basketball where there's 12 people on the roster and there's 12 people on scholarship or 11 people on scholarship, right? It's not like football where they have 85 scholarships, right? For their athletes per institution. The money is very thin and it's spread out amongst a lot of people and across the way. And so know that that's the most. I give this example a lot when I was at UCSB, when I was at UC Santa Barbara, we were allowed to have 4.5 scholarships. Our school only gave us the equivalent of, let's say, 3.2, right? At about 3.2 scholarships. And then I had 32 guys on the team. And I had to divide the 3.2 scholarships amongst the guys on the team. And now there are people we had to recruit potentially maybe from overseas, a European player to come or South American player to come that may needed that scholarship to be here. There's a lot of times that money is spread out across the board among athletes. If I would put all that scholarship money into one athlete's probably not making it through the next scrimmage. That guys are going to go target him and get him out. That's not how it works, right? We want to make sure it comes in where it's equitable in the process. So know that if a school is able to get you through what is now very, very rigorous recruiting processes, admissions processes, that you are that is the new scholarship, right? So school is important. Get your grades high, take the right classes, talk to your college counselors, right? But know that admissions is what's really behind all this. Another example I'll give too, just from a data standpoint, stop me, coach, if you want, is the number of applications to a lot of this water schools that offer water polo is quite high. So before I left UCSB, and this is now coming on 6-7 years ago, we reached a record at UCSB. We had 98,000 applications. I say it again, 98,000 applications to yield a class of approximately 6,000, right? And then a few would be under that, right? So just do the math. Well, that's hard. That was 7 years ago. Now today, I had a counselor from Long Beach State speak to me a few months ago that told me they are now over and expecting approximately 120,000 applications per year. 120,000 applications a year, again, for a few thousand to yield, right? So it's very difficult to get accepted universities. If water polo can be helpful in that process, great, but it's not the only answer to it, right? School matters.
Yeah, and there's a really intriguing question as far as the commitment to think. Your academics without a doubt matters, because the better student you are, the more options you're going to have as far as schools. And I think balance is important, because not only, and we'll talk about this a little later, but not only are schools looking for you to be the best athlete you can be, the best student you can be, but they're also going to be looking for you to, what else do you do besides school and athletics? The community service involvement. And depending on the school, different things matter. So you almost have to be as well-rounded as you can. Yeah, so I think when you're playing a sport, I think what sports does for you with your academics, let's say you're academically a B level student, right? And there's a possibility you can get into a level school academically because you play sports, right? So there are where athletics does help, but you still have to be smart enough, right? And still have to have the grades to put yourself in that position. Athletics, there is a little bit more of a leeway for athletes who are recruited, but it's not as much as you think it is at certain schools.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these questions, Coach Felix, are again, this is why we say talk to your academic counselors, right? Talk to your college counselors, and it's going to be very specific. So another question came in about, will college credits taken in high school get transferred to college? It's going to be college dependent, right? Wherever you go, right? That's going to be dependent. It's going to be different everywhere, right? The other question will come up here on the next slide. Some schools are asking whether if the test is optional, SATs, SETs. This used to be a longer discussion for us in this presentation. It's going to be a shorter one because that's changing rapidly, and it's going to be very specific to the school, right? Does the school require the SAT or ACT anymore? Is it optional? What does optional really mean to that university, right? Across the board, that's no longer a blanket answer that we can give everybody. That's changing rapidly at each institution. So again, I really, really encourage you, if you haven't already, if you're a sophomore, junior, if you're a senior, it's not too late, right? They're still rolling admissions in some of these places, but the sophomores, juniors, freshmen, even find out who they are on campus, get to meet your college guidance counselors on campus, really start getting engaged in this process there, so you have resources about this as well.
Yeah, and some of you might go to a public school that might not have a college counselor available that might answer, but you have the internet, and you could literally go to any university, to their admissions page, and they'll break down exactly what they're going to require for that particular year, because every year could be different as well. So as much as you should go to your college counselor, but I went to a public high school and with thousands of kids, and it was very difficult to get access to our college counselor. So, but I didn't have the internet. So, but I think you guys have that option to go to these websites and get an opportunity to get some of the basic information as far as the tests, teacher recommendations, and everything else that might come with the application process.
So you do your homework literally and figurative and water polo wise.
Yeah.
In the classroom and tonight on all the water polo programs, do your research like Coach mentioned, okay? Contact rules. Coach, do you want to go through these real quick? Because I know you know them better than I do.
So and there is, I would say Division IIIs are a little bit different, because Division IIIs, they can literally contact you, email and phone calls as soon as you're a freshman in high school. Division I, Division IIIs are a little bit different. June 15th is a big date, right? So after June 15th of your sophomore year, when it's completed, that's when Division I, Division II schools can email you, exchange emails, call you, return a call, answer a call. Before that, they literally have to say, sorry, I can't. Face-to-face contact on or off campus only after August 1st of your junior year. So if you run into a coach and it's not August 1st yet, you say, hey coach, how are you? And they say, sorry, I can't talk to you. Don't be offended. It's just the rules might not prohibit it. And also the dead period. Right now, because of COVID, this dead period that you've been hearing about got extended to June 1st. So let's say but this is only
this
for
weekend.
Schools. Yeah. So let's say, well, there might be Division III coaches walking around campus, walking around San Antonio the next couple of days. They might be able to talk to you after the day's over. But a Division I coach, they're going to say, sorry, I can't. It's not June 1st. So don't take it personal. There are certain rules that we have to follow. Not every coach follows it, just like not every coach follows the 20 hours a week, but there's a lot of coaches that try. Visits, you can visit campuses unofficially as often as you want, but remember, no face-to-face contact with a coach till after August 1st. So plan those accordingly. Official visits is a big thing. Everybody wants an official visit, but you're only allowed 5 total. So make sure, and an official visit isn't where the school covers all your costs. Is if you go on a trip and you stay overnight and the coach buys you a meal, that's an official visit. While another coach can pay for your flight, pick you up at the airport, and they're equally the same official visits. Anytime a university spends any money on you, whether it's a meal or transportation to and from the airport, that counts as an official visit. So just be careful and protect yourself. If you're fortunate enough to have those opportunities, some coaches might pick you up at the airport, and somebody sees you and says, hey, I saw this happen. Is that an official visit? And it counts against you. And you lose the ability to be recruited by that school. So just be careful with, some coaches might not be up to date at the rules. So please, just like the first slide, educate yourself with this stuff to protect yourself and your eligibility.
Yeah, and a good question came in, so when you go to water polo camps, what's that like on water polo camps and things like that? If the water polo camp is during a dead period, like we have been, right, in this past, then there's no contact as allowed.
Yeah, there wouldn't. Right? Their coaches aren't allowed to have camps on their campus or attend camps under a dead period. So that answers that. But during camps, coaches are allowed to kind of talk. If you're age appropriate, like after June 15th or stuff like that, and you're rising, they can talk to you about their school after the day is over. But during the day, they should be smart enough to say, hey, let's talk on the phone afterwards. So again, a lot of these times take these opportunities. If it's before August 1st and your junior year, take these opportunities if you go to a camp to at least say hi, right? And also show them that you're coachable. Be coached by them so that they can kind of see, all right, this is the type of player that fits into what I'm looking for because they're coachable and also they're friendly and they worked hard. So there are certain rules, and like I said, there's a gray area of camps, but for the most part, coaches will try to respect that. And again, protect yourself and your eligibility.
Yeah, go back to that Coach Popovich slide of how you want to be evaluated. And we'll talk one more time about camps here before the end, because there's a specific type of camp we're in. So we talked about registering with the Eligibility Center. We've talked about that already. Sending in your academic info. We'll get to that as well. We'll talk a little bit about videos when we get to resumes. I think it'll be a good time to talk about videos when we get to resumes at the end. We're still talking about how you can communicate with coaches. So to keep pushing this along, we made up a rule a few years ago, right? When you're talking to coaches and you're emailing them, just know that 3 emails probably equals 1, right? It's important to understand that you are emailing coaches who are understaffed, right? Who are understaffed in where they're at. And so for a lot of us, again, Coach Mercado and I working in the College Coach Association, we decided one of the things we wanted to champion a few years ago is to make sure that coaches could hire a second assistant coach, to have more coaches on their staff so they could make it more. But for the most part, those schools have to offer resources. For the most part, if you have a coach who's the head coach of a both men's and women's program, they may not have a lot of help, right? So really getting to the assistant coaches, I should really put that as a bullet point. When you're emailing coaches and your resume and we're getting that, make sure that you are also emailing the assistant coach. Make sure that you're including other people on the staff, on the emails and communication. And remember, if a coach doesn't respond, it doesn't mean they are not interested, right? If the coach does not mean they're not interested. Really keep going and keep right now, this morning on my email, this is no joke. I do this almost every time I give the talk since my email's open somewhere on my screen, right? While I'm giving this, I have 5,416 emails in my inbox. That could mean that I'm not very good at managing my emails, but 170 of them are unread. It's hard. Email's getting hard. So if I know if Coach Mercado wants to get in touch with me, I'm going through all my emails and I start seeing Coach Mercado, if he's trending in my email box, that means I got to call him back, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be pushy. Doesn't mean you're going to email every day, right? Doesn't mean you're going to go over the top. But listen, if somebody doesn't respond in a week, 10 days, right? Go and say, I'm resending this email, right? Resend. Just want to make sure you got it, make sure you're interested, and make sure you're copying the right people, and make sure that you're using a mature email address. It's your name, last name, something from your school, something academic, not some odd email address that came comes out of left field and is appropriate in your name. I can give lots of stories. There's usually insert 5 email jokes here, right? That I've had over the years, that we've had over the years. The other ones I always come in is being personal about these emails, right? Writing a good personal email so that the coach can respond. If they get an email, you want to be responsive. I want to be responsible here. And over the years, right, you may have trouble right now differentiating between the 2 squares on your screen between Coach Mercado and myself, but you'd be surprised how many people mix us up without even looking at us face to face, right? While you're seeing this, there were years and years in the decade that I was coaching college water polo, that I'd get an email that said, "Hey, dear Coach Abdou, I'm very interested in UCLA. I'm very interested in Brown University. I'm very interested in Harvard," and that's not where I coach. Or it would be the opposite. It's a "Dear Coach Mercado, I'm very interested in Bucknell University," and the email would come to my box. That means that that student athlete is copying and pasting emails and not being personal about how they want to communicate to us coaches. We're very sensitive people. We think highly of what we do. We don't want to be offended, all right? So if you want to, I'll give you in 30 seconds a sample email to write to your coaches, all right? "Dear Coach Abdou, congratulations on your 7-6 win versus Brown on Friday night. I watched the game on live stream. I thought it was a great contest. I noticed on your roster there were 2 athletes from the Midwest where I play. I noticed there were 2 athletes from my zone team and in your area that have played on your roster. Please find my attached resume. I'm very interested in attending your university. You'll find that I'm graduate in the class of 2022, and I'm excited to learn more about the possibilities of attending university." Period. So I read that email. I know several things. You've been watching our games, or even if you haven't been watching, you've been checking and following scores. You know that we had a big win on Friday night. You know what kind of athletes are on the roster, right? That's a personal email to me, right? That says that you are interested in my program. This is very much like courting. Nobody wants to be anybody's second choice. Even though you're looking at a lot of schools, that's not something you want to tell people right away, right? When you're looking to ask somebody to the prom, you're not like, "I'm very interested in taking you to the prom, but you're one of 5 people I'm looking at. We'll see how everything else works out. And at some point, I'll let you know if I'm going to go to the prom with you." That's a really hard, imagine saying that to somebody, right, in the hallway at your high school. That's a tough conversation to have. You are having that conversation. If you're having that conversation with college coaches, it's going to be received in a similar fashion, right? So find a way to be personal, learn about, show them that you did your homework. Show the coach that you just did everything that Coach Mercado and I just said. You're researching the schools. You're finding out if you're 3 for 3, right? You're finding out if that school could be a good fit for you. And if you've done your homework, you're going to find a fit. And I promise you, there's a school out there that's excited to have you. If you do your homework right, there's a school that's excited to have you go through this. Update your social media accounts. Again, in the interest of time, I'll save the stories that come out of this, right? We'll be the 100th adult in your life to tell you to monitor your social media accounts. Water polo is a small world. You come on an official visit, unofficial visit, you come to one of our camps on our campus, I only have to ask one person. When I say 1 degree of separation, I only have to ask one person to find out about you. I don't have to ask 5 people. I can find one phone number in my Rolodex that will get me connected to find out about your character and who you are as a person. It's a very small sport. Okay. Coach talked about official visits and unofficial visits already, so I think we can skip through that, right? If you want to learn more, that's in there. So the question about camps, to be quick about this, institutional camps, that's one way. They haven't been camps on campus in a long time. I think they're starting to come back this summer and in the end of summer, right? And in the winter, where we can start having camps on campus. Camps on campus, institutional camps. That means I'm interested in Santa Barbara as a university. I'm interested in Brown as a university. I'm interested in Bucknell as a university. I'm interested in X university that has a camp on their campus. Those are the camps you can go to. And at those camps, a lot of NCAA rules are bypassed because you're a member and a participating athlete at that camp. Not all of them, but some. But it's a way for you to be able to have a time to go sleep in the dorms on that campus, to eat in their cafeteria, to walk up and down the hallways of the academic areas, to play against a lot of times the coaches are of the camp are current student athletes on the campus. So you can see what your level of play is around those coaches, be coached by the coach. It's a wonderful way to intimately know a university, as opposed to going to water polo camps across the country that are just for fun or different things. This is a very specific camp I would suggest to go to when you have limited or lowered your list to that 5, 6, 7 schools that you're looking at, or hopefully even lower. That's when you go to an institutional camp and say, I'm very interested and I'm going to show up. Coach, I know we've been doing these for years. Anything you want to say about that before we move on?
No, you hit the most important points.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about finances again. I'm sorry, right? there's ways other than being a great water polo player, there are other ways to pay for college, right? And I think that's the message we want to get out to you. And financial aid and the financial aid process, universities, again, your college counselors, and there's other resources to help you out here. But just know that most schools now, it's coming through merit aid, or excuse me, not water polo merit aid, but academic merit aid, other things that you do in life, financial need, other things are coming on, and it's not need-based. It sounds scary to some people. Say, well, we won't qualify for need-based aid. You'd be surprised, right? A lot of universities and the way they're structuring themselves in academic scholarships and financial aid has really come together. And we have multiple stories where a private school that costs $60,000 a year might end up being cheaper than the public school down the street, depending on the packages that they're offering you, at the university. So it's worth looking. Don't let that be a barrier from exploring this. And also, let yourself look at private scholarships, fastweb.com, as we put on the bottom of this video. That's been around for decades. Great resource to find private scholarships. If you watch Shark Tank on ABC, right? myscholarly.com was one that made it through Shark Tank. It's another website app that people can put in their personal information, spits out some scholarship opportunities for them. Don't let that be a barrier as you explore. You'd be surprised how many resources are out there for you. Okay. Myths, Coach.
So we actually went through this today, and I think we covered most of this, but this is just kind of reiterating what we've talked about. If a coach doesn't contact me, he or she is not interested. Again, false. Most programs are understaffed, and especially programs with one head coach for both programs. So it's important, just 3 to 1. Remember that. Coaches can get admitted whomever they want. Again, false. Your application matters, just not just your ability. Obviously, we talked about academics. Each school values things different. Teacher recommendations matter, your community service, all that stuff matters. So you have to understand, like, water polo coaches can be advocate, and depending on the better the player you are, the easier it might be, but they still have to jump through certain hoops that the school requires. So understand that they can't just get it whoever they want. Coaches can communicate with admissions office all the time. False. And this will vary between Division I, Division III schools and state schools to private schools. And the last one, and something that we talked about, the water polo scholarships exist for everyone on the roster. Now, a lot of these athletes rely on academic grants and student loans to be on those rosters. And that's something that you just have to consider. You don't have to, playing water polo at a varsity level is not something that you are, that's given, that's a given. You don't, you don't have to do it. You have to weigh the cost of what you want to get your degree in to the cost of the school, and just understand that. Yeah.
And then we don't put these myths up in terms of busting them to break hearts. We do it to define reality, right? And anytime you can define reality and define these things, then anxiety lessens, right? And when I know what's real and how to navigate this process, anxiety lessens. I'm going to say this again. Here's something that's 100% true. 2 things that are 100% true. 1, there's a school that's excited out there to have you. If you go through this process right, there's a school that's thrilled to have you. And 2, remember, admissions is the new scholarship, right? When you're talking through this, you get through it. That's how you're going to get yourself through this process. But know there's a school out there for you. You just have to go find it, and you may not have heard of it before, right? And it may be in a different place than you thought. Okay, you're going to create a resume. Part of your homework. You're going to go back. You're going to research all the schools. See they went 3 for 3. You want to email the coaches like we talked about. You got to build this resume out. Know what your vitals are. The vitals are your contact information, your graduation year. All those things matter, right? And vital information matters. I will say this part, Coach. Almost always in this talk, someone says, because I'm talking to 5 zones that are here to compete at the ODP Regional Championship in San Antonio, Texas, right, together, I almost always get this question. Is being from outside of California a disadvantage for me when in the college recruiting process, right? And when you're building your resume, I don't want to say that I'm from this place or that place because I'm not from California. I want to dispel that myth altogether. That means so little in the college recruiting process, right? This California versus non-California means so little. If you were to look at some of our rosters in the East Coast right now, again, I only speak for myself, and then within the rules, we don't want coach or other people to speak too much, but I can tell you that now that I'm not a college coach anymore, right? That my rosters at Bucknell were littered, and were almost always more non-California than California. And I took a lot of pride in recruiting and coaching athletes not from California. And in a lot of ways, I sometimes preferred coaching those athletes if they had the right attitude and they came from the right place. And so know that those vitals. So I would see an athlete. That's why this matters, right? So what's less important than being from outside of California? is that you're an athlete that has good grades, that's coachable, that can swim fast, right? That has a physical attribute that can coach. I had the captain of my women's team at one point at Bucknell University was from New Mexico, right? She was great, right? She was great. One of the best players we ever had at Bucknell from New Mexico. One of the best men's players I ever had on the men's side was from New Hampshire in the Northeast. New Hampshire does not even have varsity water polo at the high school level, but his vitals were fantastic, right? And he ended up being a captain of my team at one point. Had a goalie from Brooklyn, New York for many years that became an All-American, right? From Brooklyn. Again, not a lot of water polo in Brooklyn. He came out and made it happen. So just know that this is what's important. Know your references matter. Keep it at one page. We'll give a couple of quick examples. If you want to take a screenshot here, you can take a screenshot of this, right? This is exactly kind of the outline of one way to look at this. You can have a lot of questions about it, but if you can create a one-page resume that fits all these things together, that would be really helpful. Again, along with your communication that you spread out to coaches. Here's one, Dora the Explorer, class of 22, fantastic athlete. But this is really, when I read something like this as a coach, I can get through this very quickly. It doesn't need to be long. I don't need to hear a story or poems or long videos. If I know, hey, this person coaches by Diego Cruz, right? I know his email. I know Diego Cruz. If I don't know him personally, I know somebody that does, and I'm one connection away, right? Of getting to that person, I can find a lot about it, and that reference matters a lot, right? So resumes matter, and they're important, right, Coach?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, you're. Yep.
Okay. I know we want to get to the end here. We want to be able to answer some questions, right? And I know I do want to answer the question about videos before. When we're talking about resumes, why do video matters? Keep your videos brief. Ask your coaches what they want, right? Remember, YouTube research tells us that average length of attention span on a video is like 1 minute and 20 seconds. So when you send 5-minute video, 6-minute videos, not be as much. If a coach asks for a full game, you can get them the full game, right? But also, like, very specific highlights matter. Every coach is different. They may have some different things, so you can ask them about this, right, specifically. But it's not a bad thing to have video. But know that have your video show technical skill, movement as well, so they know what you're technically doing.
Yeah, and I think that every coach is different, and trying to appease all of them is going to be, if a coach wants to watch 2 minutes of an 8-minute video, they'll watch 2 minutes of an 8-minute video. If a coach wants to watch all 8 minutes, they'll watch 8 minutes. So don't get too stressed out on, just do something that you feel is appropriate, but obviously not too long. And I think that one of the things that, John, that we're going to be working on is to kind of almost solidify what coaches a good type of skill set to put in a video. Yeah. Right. We talked about it during COVID on like, hey, we don't have a chance to play. What can we do to show a coach that my skill level? And we came up with a pretty productive list of things. And I don't know if that's been made public yet to the ODP kids, but I know that that's something that we should make more public so that they have access to that. Because even if you're playing games, those skill levels are stuff that and I know I speak for other college coaches that we like to see, and then we want to see you play. Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. We actually did do that. And for a lot of athletes that went to an ODP camp, they got this, but let's add that to the end of the weekend email here. So at the end of the weekend, this is a reminder to all of you and also to myself and Coach Mercado, we're going to send you a link to this recording, right? So that you have the recording, we'll upload it. 2, we'll get you some notes from the talk, right? Like a PDF of notes from the talk. And 3, we actually have a document that has and outlines how to create a recruiting video. And I sent it specifically for ODP athletes. And when we created this specifically for ODP athletes, we put hyperlinks in there of drills and skills that you can demonstrate. So you can watch the video on there, and you can do it even in a backyard pool. That was the idea, right? During COVID, if people weren't having access to pools, even if I had a little bit of space, I could show my worth. Goalies, you do this all the time. Your videos that Coach Nolan and ODP evaluates with his staff are fantastic. And you only need a little bit of space, right, to show those skills. Field players can do the same thing. They can show, you can go over your hips, shot block, and you'll have links to all that. And thank you, Coach, for remembering that project. And let's get that out to you. We have it, and if you don't have it already, we'll include it. And it's a college coach approved way to make a highlight video. So you have a lot of to-do list. You got to do your homework. You got to find the schools. You got to see what the fit is. You got to get it going on this sophomore year, junior year. You guys are looking at this. You know what you need to do, and use your breaks wisely. Right? Use your breaks. Like one of the things that we want to do is when you come to these tournaments, we try to strategically put them in different places around the country where maybe other colleges start adding. Use that time to go visit a school, right? While you're there. Those of you who will hopefully be playing at JOs in Texas in session 3,
this summer, go visit Austin College while you have a few hours off, right? When you come to California next time, take an extra couple of days to visit. When you're in the Northeast, go to a camp, visit as many schools, drive within 3 hours. You can get to a lot of different schools within a 3-hour, 4-hour drive, right? So you can make that happen. Your homework, use your breaks wisely. We're excited to be here. We know you have questions, but Coach Mercado and myself will be on the pool deck, right, this week. This pool deck right behind me, this pretty sweet pool, all right, that's right behind me. There's 3 pools all in one place. Come find us. You have questions, we're happy to guide you through this. We're here to help you. That's why we do this, right? We don't, we want to be a resource for you.
Yeah, and again, my specific role is a little dicey, but I can definitely answer any questions about the process, about basic stuff.
Yes.
But I'll keep it very generic. So please don't take it personal.
Yeah, I remember Coach Mercado is not here in his role as a university coach, right? His role as a national team coach and as a and also as the president of the ACWPC, right? In what we're doing. But we're here to help. We're here to answer. We're here to be with you and send you these resources at the end. Any last questions you guys want to throw into the Q&A, we're happy to answer. But we'll start wrapping up here as we keep going. And just a reminder at the end: educate yourself, keep an open mind, be proactive, and know that college water polo leads to a lot of things. And you don't have to sacrifice academics and athletics the way like Dr. Omar Amr, one of our heroes and our great friends, did, who was able to attend UC Irvine as undergraduate and eventually went to Harvard Medical School, and all during that time was training to be an Olympic athlete and compete in 2004 games. He was able to do both, right? Was be a Harvard Medical School and play in the Olympics. People like Marjorie here, who became a physician and competed in the Olympics. People all over the place, but playing varsity college water polo is something that we find a lot of value in. There's a place out there that wants you, and they'll be excited to have you. So educate yourself, keep an open mind, get into this process, and we're very excited to have everybody here in San Antonio this weekend, and let's enjoy the great water polo that we have ahead of us and play hard and enthusiastically and take advantage of the time in the water and with your coaches and all this weekend. So thank you.
Any last minute questions? I think we're good. All right. Well, good luck this weekend, everyone. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. And see you this weekend.
Yeah. Thanks again. Go USA.